Let's celebrate the magic of short stories and poems. They are truly magical, aren't they? They make us feel happiness, heartbreak, horror, hope, hatred, and so much more. Namaste, people. Welcome to Shweta's Basket, a weekly stories and poems podcast, and I'm your host, Shweta Singh. So, today is very special. This is the 50th episode of Shweta's Basket, a half century. Yes! So when I started Shweta's Basket, a short stories and poems podcast in March 2020, I had no idea where this would lead. The only thought was to narrate stories written by you and me, the regular people who had no platform to showcase our work, because I couldn't find anything online that was similar to Shweta's Basket then. But this was a completely new deal, I was not sure if I could do it, or what it entailed, or where to get the information from. But I was also sure that if I thought too much about it, I would chicken out. My family and friends agreed. So with their best wishes in one hand, and armed with the required research, enough to just get me started, in the other hand, I took the plunge. It was like reading about how to swim and then jumping into the deep end and hoping fervently that your theory will help you keep afloat in the practical. But we know how that goes, don't we? So it was no wonder that I was barely managing to stay afloat in the beginning. For the first 9 months, there was only one episode per month, which is akin to drowning. But then December 2020 onwards, I found that my skill had improved a bit, and now was the time to put in the hours to build the stamina. So December onwards, I started posting twice a week. Recording, editing the recording, learning the finer points of the editing software, searching for the right music, the perfect picture, uploading it to my host site anchor.fm, and finally posting on social media. Whew, that was a lot of work, a lot of learning, a lot of frustration, but utterly exhilarating. To learn and feel yourself grow in something that is absolutely new to you is just so empowering. And then, in May, came the first big milestone, the first anniversary of the website Shweta's Basket. And we had a grand celebration that lasted a month. Every weekend, starting from 24th of April to 15th of May, the hashtag First Party was celebrated with great enthusiasm and gusto. We played 7 games and had 8 winners and nearly 150 entries. Oh God, those were heady and hectic and super fun days. And after all the hectic activity, I took a month's break to rejuvenate and was back in July to do what I love doing. And that, my dear listeners, is enthralling you with some awesome, heartwarming and heart-wrenching stories and poems. Though creating an episode is alone work for me, I have never been lonely in this journey. I have had great fortune to meet some fantastic stories written by equally fantastic writers who have become my friends. It's like walking down a scenic path and at regular intervals meeting people who are kind enough to give you sustenance in the form of stories that keep you energized to move ever forward. The day this sustenance stops, the journey will too. And that is why I say, thank you, dear writers, for giving me your words and trusting me with your stories. They are the most precious gifts I have. Till date, Shweta's Basket has collaborated with 24 writers. Yatindra ji, Sonal, Sheetal, Nisha, Rajkumari ji, Vijay, Sarveswari, Anne, Arva, Esther, Nirmala ji, Chandra, Preeti, Saravjot, Sandeep, Pallavi, Natasha, Narayani, Nirbhay ji, Kavita, Aarti, Amrita, Richa, and Vasudha ji. And new connections are made every so often and from expected and unexpected quarters. But now imagine this scenario. A beautiful museum showcasing some of the most well-crafted gems and well-cut diamonds in the world. But no one to see them or admire them. What's the point then, isn't it? And that is why, dear listeners, this would be an exercise in futility if it wasn't for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving the most precious thing as a listener you can give me. Your time. Your time, your comments, your recommendations is what keeps pushing me to bring to you the best content I can. Now, this episode will be incomplete without mentioning 3 people. The very first person is someone whose name is lost forever in the lanes of bygone childhood memories. The person who introduced me to audio stories. I don't remember who you are, what your name is, but I am eternally grateful to you for giving me this precious gift. And the other 2 people are Neha Parashar and Nilesh Misra. Neha has a podcast titled Panno Ke Jharoke. It's my absolute favorite. Do listen to her. She has a wonderful way of pulling you in. And she was the motivation behind me posting 2 episodes per week and pushing my boundaries. And last but not the least is Nilesh Misra. Everyone knows him. He is perhaps the most loved and famous audio storyteller in India today. His Yadon Ka Idiot Box with Nilesh Mishra, available as a podcast, is my absolute go-to podcast. Both of them have double-handedly saved me from going insane in this lockdown. Their narration is like the boat that keeps me safe and afloat in this chaotic ocean of life and pandemic. And if I can be even one person's boat for a day, I would consider myself blessed. And that was one of the other reasons for starting the podcast, to be able to gift a smile, a happy feeling to a listener. And before we conclude this episode, let me boast a little bit. Here are a few listeners who were kind enough to write into me and tell me why they like Shweta's Basket. So the very first person to send me a DM was Vasudha ji, my star listener, and this is what she had to say about Shweta's Basket. I love listening to Shweta's Basket. Every episode is a wonderful surprise. A great story or a fabulous poem enriches my day each time I listen. Without hesitation, I would recommend Shweta's Basket to anyone who wants an excellent literary session to enhance their perspective. My God, thank you Vasudha ji for those kind words. And next was Nisha Tandon, and this is what she had to say. Do I need to say anything at all why I am hooked onto Shweta's Basket? I admire the way she has a good mix of poetry, short stories, anecdotes, and a dash of trivia. There is never a dull moment or monotony as one listens to the content on the podcast, and her mellifluous voice leaves you asking for more. Wishing Shweta's Basket a happy golden 50th episode and many more. Thank you so much, Nisha, not just for your poems, but also for your friendship. And after that, it was Sarvjot Hansrao who sent me her DM. Sarvjot, she is the woman with the golden heart. She says, tuning into Shweta's Basket is the perfect winding down to a busy day. The guilt of inability to sit down with a book is washed away listening to the enthralling stories and lyrical poetry on Shweta's Basket. The renditions by Shweta are engaging and heart-tugging. Oh, thank you, Sarvjot. Perfect winding down, she said. The next one to send a message was Munmun Chaudhary, one of my very first listeners and one of my very first reviewers. And this is what she had to say. Shweta's Basket is a wonderful podcast of poems and stories. The host, Shweta Singh, brings work of art alive with a beautiful rendition, evoking a myriad of emotions in the listener. Shweta's velvety voice has magic that transforms the written pieces, touching the deepest recesses of the listener's heart. I trust Shweta's Basket to change moments and make a difference. Highly recommended. Oh, thank you so much, Munmun, for your words of encouragement. You have been on this journey with me from the very beginning. and may we travel along for a long, long time, dear friend. And then there is Nirbhay Singh Ji. You know, he is perhaps the only listener, writer who has been with Shweta's Basket even before it was a website, when it was just a blog. I think that was from 2015 he's been with us. And he says, I'm a big admirer of all your posts. Keep it up and all the best. May you reach up to the sky. Well, thank you so much, Nirbhay Ji, for being with us for nearly 6 years and being a reader and then a listener and then a collaborator on Shweta's Basket. So, I conclude this episode by thanking you, dear writers, for giving me your words, and dear listeners, for giving me your time. And I promise we will meet again and take stock of where we stand in the 100th episode.